Hello lovelies, and thank you guys so much for being here today. So today we are just taking a look at the house as it was when we first moved in, as well as some changes that we have made and some inspiration towards the end of what I'm trying to accomplish with the house. Now, as you can see from the video or from these photographs, and there is some video clips in here as well, the house was in really rough shape when we moved in. It had been a foreclosure, and the son of the owner, the previous owner, had been squatting in the house. So the house was in horrible, horrible condition, and oddly enough had several refrigerators, an old red pleather sofa that was in the living room that we had to get rid of. There was that giant hole in the wall in the bedroom. There was some water damage. So we have really had to kind of do a lot to get the house to even be livable initially. And then, of course, we've had to repair a lot of plumbing, and it's just been a lot. We've done a lot of wall repair and a lot of outside maintenance. It just seems like every time we turn around, there's something new. There had been mice living in the house at some point, and the house itself is actually a single wide mobile home, and we are on an 1.5 acres. So essentially we bought the house with the potential that we could fix it however we wanted to, and then just kind of make it our own. As you saw in that one picture, there was carpeting around the door. When we moved in, the only room that had any carpeting was the furthest bedroom. The large second bedroom had carpet and pad. We removed all of that, and as you can see there, we're removing the carpeting and the padding. But the rest of the house had nothing. There was no carpet. There was no linoleum where there should have been linoleum. There was this tile that they laid over the top of the linoleum. And there's quite a few areas where they had added linoleum on top of they added tile on top of the linoleum. And so the linoleum or the tiles had begun to crack because it's not a proper substrate to put your tile on top of. And I'm not sure. The house was absolutely filthy. We just had so much work to do before we could even move in, and we were on an absolute time crunch. I think I've described before in a couple of my other videos that we had 30 days, and our landlord at our previous home was not going to renew our lease, so we had no choice. We really just kind of had to gut up and make the best of it. There was no hot water to the laundry area. There's no water to the sink or the tub in the second bathroom. The faucets, for whatever reason, had been swapped. So what you thought was hot water was actually cold water. What you thought was cold water was actually hot water. A lot of things were duct taped together. A lot of things were just kind of hodgepodge. That hole there was covered by a couple of doors. There's a lot of staining on the subfloor. But one of the first things that Roger had to tackle before we could even begin moving in our items or our household goods was he had to tackle this front porch, which was falling apart. The back porch is still a work in progress. In fact, so much progress it's just literally falling down. But Roger had to essentially replace most of the boards in the front porch area so that we could it would be safe enough to walk on and to bring our furniture into. The stove, they'd had a fire in the kitchen and apparently had never cleaned the stove, so that's just kind of a look at it. Inside the stove or inside the oven, the coils were actually broken, so Roger ended up having to buy me a new stove oven combination thing. Where the fire had taken place, we had to do a lot of cleaning there to get what we could. Of course, a lot of it is stained, so we are going to have to paint. Just the amount of yuck that was there is unreal. They had retiled over the original cabinets and just not very well. So Roger's going to replace all of my cabinets and the countertop for me. We are going to do something completely different with the backsplash area. That's my new stove. And my best friend and her husband came over, and he helped Roger to get that horrible, heavy red sofa out of the living room. This was the first plumbing project he had to tackle, and that was redoing underneath the kitchen sink, which was an absolute nightmare. And you could tell I'd been leaking for a long time. So we're ripping all of that out when we redo the kitchen, but for now it just kind of exists. The water heater was another nightmare. It was not insulated. It was not properly executed is all I can say. So we had to redo that, one of the first things. And the access panel to the water heater was also kind of a nightmare. And there was just holes everywhere. Like, I didn't even understand why there were holes in so many random places. But Roger did a lot to fix that. And then this is the bathroom in the master bedroom. And just the amount of, I don't know, maybe they didn't own mops and such, but it was pretty gross. And it's still not 100% yet. This was our one and only real, no, I think we've had a couple of fires to get rid of some stuff, but mostly it's all still there, waiting for a good day where it's not blowing 80-mile-per-hour winds in Oklahoma to refix that. Here Roger is replacing the front door. We have a standard size front door now. Mobile homes do not come with a standard size front door. They're a little narrower and a little shorter, I believe. So we had to redo all of that. And it was a labor of love for sure to get the opening a little bit bigger so we could fit in the front door. You can see all of our stuff is there and just kind of piled up. Again, this was one of those super fast moves, and we had to hope that escrow closed quickly so that we could get all of our stuff into the house. And it's currently this kind of a weird gray wash color with like reddish color trim, but there's the new door and it works lovely. This was the garage, or makeshift garage. I think I've shown this in a video before as well. And there was just anything they didn't want to deal with in the house, they just chucked out into the garage, including the old carpeting. There was so much stuff. We had a gentleman that Roger had befriended. He actually did the stove, and he actually came out and cleared out most of this yuck. He's like a junker or something. So he actually cleared out most of it. There is still a little bit of that wood that's packed there in that corner. That's still there that Roger has to deal with. But that old stove is gone. That cabinet's gone. We were hoping we could salvage the garage, but as you can see, these ceiling or roof beams, a lot of them are broken or rotted through. I don't know if you can tell in this picture, but there's a lot of holes in the roof because when they laid the metal roofing over the top, they just kind of screwed into the beams. If they hit the beam, good. If they didn't, they just left the hole and continued on. So it's literally rotting inside. So that's been kind of frustrating for Roger because he loves to work with wood and he has a lot of tools. And so everything in the garage is now covered with tarps, but we got rid of all that stuff there in the back. It was just, yeah, it's still a wooden floor. It's still what it is. All of that is gone. Those, I don't know why. There were several wheelbarrows. There were several lawnmowers. It was just exactly the nightmare that you would imagine that it was. It pretty much was. So the son of the previous owner who had been squatting in the house was also living in this van that you'll see coming up. So that's interesting. But yeah, he had been living in the van and using it to store stuff, I guess. I'm not sure. But all of that is gone. There was so many outside, like, tools, equipment that was just rotting and sitting out there. But that's all gone. And so this is just kind of a walk around to show you what the outside looked like. So, yeah, it was a lot. But for the price we paid for the house and the property, we figured we could just get it fixed up, take our time, and make it the house that we want it to be. Unfortunately, Everything is really expensive, as I'm sure everybody noticed when you try to like rebuild even like simple shelves or, you know, what have you. And just to redo that portion of the deck that Roger did was grossly more expensive than it should have been. But once we get rid of a lot of this stuff and clear out this area, it does start to look a lot better. So I know in one of my previous videos, someone had suggested just doing kind of a recap video, and that's what this is, just to kind of give you and myself an idea where how far we've come, because there's so often I look around and I wonder, oh my gosh, what are we doing? We haven't done anything. It still looks the same. It just, because you get into those moments where, you know, when you're trying to live in a house as you remodel it, and for anyone else that has done so, it's just, it sucks. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It really does, because just like trying to do the one wall in the living room that you'll see here in a little bit, we ended up having to sand it, and it just covered the entire house with dust. And we're still trying to recover from that because it still settles and everything. Plus, you know, we have all of our pets, all of our fur babies, and trying to work around them has been really kind of daunting. So that's pretty much all I can say about that. This is, I think, when we were trying to get this area cleared out because we knew we were going to be bringing in a shipping container to put all of our stuff into. Now the fence needs to be torn down and redone, but that's for another day. But you can see here we got all of that stuff cleared out, got the shipping container brought in, so that was a huge help and a huge savings because nothing had to go back into storage, which was an hour away for us and extremely expensive. Plus we're going to raise the amount of our payments every month for the storage unit. And now we just own a shipping container. This was when we first got some of Roger's stuff from the storage unit out to the garage. You see I had to put boards down on everything, and you can see all of this stuff is still kind of there, but this all goes away also, which is nice, because the gentleman that I was talking about before, he was coming by quite regularly and grabbing like trailer loads of just stuff to help out, which I thought was really awesome. And we did actually, he got to keep all the scrap, do whatever he wanted to with that. And we had a bunch of stuff left over from when we still had our booth at the antique shop. And we gave that to his wife because they do reselling out at the Mary's Flea Market that I talk about every so often. As you can see, it's looking a lot better in there, but yeah. And then here's Roger trying to clean more of the wall in the bathroom. It's interesting, just the amount. We discovered there were a couple of things that worked really well to cut through this stuff. Oven cleaner, oddly enough, worked amazing. And so we went through a lot of oven cleaner to clean off all of the yuck from the walls. And yep, having to work with, you know, the animals there, and there's Jai also, I think, cleaning something or trying to get to something. And it was just, oh my gosh, it's kind of funny looking back at these videos and just seeing what all we did, because you don't notice it when you're doing it. It's just part of your day-to-day. Here's a look at the outside and the pond, of course, which I absolutely fell in love with. And you can see that those piles of yuck are gone, along with that hideous red sofa. And then we had our first winter here, and I think I'll show some video of the water lines froze, because the individuals who lived here before apparently were under the impression that they were, plumbers. So there's the water line actually on the ground. So I don't know, when we had the house inspected, the guy that came out to inspect the house, I'm not sure what he was looking at, because he did look under there and said everything was fine and gave it a good passing grade or whatever. The water lines were on the ground. The water lines are supposed to be up underneath the house, underneath that black stuff, and then buried where they come out at the well. They were not. So we got to deal with that. Frozen water pipes our first winter. This is last summer. It was so hot. So that was Roger installing the air conditioner that we had to get because the house, see that porch? Roger's going to rip all of that out and rebuild the deck for me. But the air conditioner for the house, they had rewired something there too. They thought they were electricians and plumbers, and it's just kind of, we've been finding little surprises. So every time we go to do something, we have to do something else to fix something that was done. But anyway, so we got a secondary small window unit to help the air conditioner for the house not have to work so hard until we can come up with, I think it's like $7,000 or $8,000 to have the entire HVAC redone, as well as all of the vents. So, or duct work, I guess they call it. Anyhow, so this is just that. But yeah, it's been kind of a challenge. And then as he came around the corner, you saw the blue tarp that's there. That's still accessible because the water lines, even though he's insulated them, they're still where they are. So all of that needs to be redone as well. And we're just waiting, like anything, you know, you wait for the funds and the time, because Roger works between 12, 14, sometimes 16-hour days. And then, of course, I'm working my 9-hour days. So there's just not a lot of time. We have the weekends, and that's pretty much it. And then, of course, by the time you have the time to do something, you don't have the funds to do it. So it's just kind of a cycle. I mean, I'm sure everybody gets it. You buy a foreclosure, or you buy a house that requires a lot of repair or maintenance, and you just kind of have to do what you have to do. But there's our new little window unit. It's currently in the back bedroom because we don't need it for the wintertime, obviously. So this is where we're getting ready to do the walls in the living room. As you can see, all of my china cabinets, I'd gotten to a point where I was just tired of everything being in a box. So I was like, that's it. If we're not going to do anything with the house, I'm at least getting my china cabinets out or my milk glass out. So I did start. Here at Roger, it has to repair this outlet. I'm not sure what happened with the outlet, but it looks like there was a leak in this window, and it affected the outlet, and it was hanging outside of the wall, which is totally not safe. So Roger ended up redoing all of that and making it safe and usable. Yeah, you can see how, I think a lot of this could have been avoided too if the house had been like properly cleaned and maintained. Houses need to be lived in. Houses are essentially like living beings. They need to be lived in. They need to be enjoyed. They need to have that, you know, the constant cleaning and upkeep and that sort of thing to keep them from having a lot of issues. So once he gets the outlet fixed, we ended up going with the styrofoam right there, and it's been great. And so we had to do so much wall prep. I had no idea how much wall prep we had to do. There were nails and just stuff everywhere. We had taken down the wallpaper chair rail that they had. I don't want seams in the walls, and I know that there's seams in mobile homes because when they transport them so the house can flex, I hate that look. I really do. So I really wanted to try and do something that made the walls look less mobile homey. Like, I don't care that I live in a mobile home. That's not the issue. The issue is I want it to look as nice as we can. And so that's what we were working on here. So this was another one of those fun challenges. And the wall does look a lot better behind where the TV is. But again, this is one of those things where you start the project and then you have to like put everything back because we're living in this house. So that's been kind of interesting. Here we're sanding down the joints where we had to, like, you know, and the patches and the repairs and everything that we had to do to the walls. And it just, oh my gosh, it was such a nightmare. And then we had to go back in and do some more. This has become the inspiration for the house. So Roger was gifted that sink and these beautiful glass outlet covers. So now, instead of doing the fun, funky 70s boho thing that I was going to do, we are going to do blue and white to match that cobalt sink. So, of course, these pictures are from Pinterest, but these are my inspiration. You see the milk glass in there and the white, and for the kitchen, the cobalt sink and everything. So as it transitions, because you know we are of course in a mobile home, so I'm going to do the living room also in blue and white, because when you first walk in, you're going to see the kitchen, so I wanted it to be cohesive as much as possible. So these are the pins I selected that have become my inspiration, and I'm really enjoying just kind of, you know, trying to find pieces, things that I already own, and then trying to kind of make it all work together. I think will be a lot of fun. Plus it allows me to use a lot of the blue and white chinoiserie pieces that I have. This is the pin board that I came up with for the living room idea. I want to have floor to ceiling shelves for my displays, but I'm going to use old windows for the cabinet doors instead of glass. It'll be a thing, you'll see. But this is the pink and white bedroom inspiration, because I definitely want a pink and white romantic, sweet, soft bedroom. I love these. And I just think it's going to be so beautiful when it's all done. And then here's my pin board for that. We are getting carpeting in March, so I'm super excited about that. This is the inspiration for the bathroom. I just think it's going to be really pretty. I do want a blue and white exterior to the outside of the house, and Roger's going to build me a new front porch. So I am looking forward to getting all of that painted. So blue and white trim, and I'm going to have a purple front door. It's a thing. I love it. But anyway, thank you guys so much for being here and for being supportive. And until next time, bye!